Before we begin today, we would like to thank our newest patrons, Ginger and Amanda. Thank you both so much for your support. If you want to be like them and get access to bonus content like our notes, the opportunity to submit study questions for Mansfield Park, and our Discord community, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/pod and prejudice. And now, enjoy this week's episode, our little button on the end of season 4 of Pod and Prejudice, where we're answering your questions about season 4, season 5, and more with our very own audio producer, Graham. Shall we begin?
Let's begin.
Well, only if I say the words. So here we go. This is Becca.
This is Molly.
We're here to talk about Jane Austen.
We're here to talk about all kinds of Jane Austen. We're here to talk about Persuasion. We're here to talk about Mansfield Park. We're here to talk about generic Austen-related things.
We're here to provide our listeners closure on season 4. Listeners, if you're new here, I, Becca, have read many Jane Austen novels, thought lots about her work, and seen many adaptations over the course of my lifetime.
And I, Molly, am doing all of that for the first time through this podcast.
If you want to hear Molly read through Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, or Persuasion for the first time, you can listen to seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this podcast, respectively, but that is not what we're doing here today.
No, today we're talking to Graham, and Graham just mouthed along all of Becca's words with her in perfect sync, and I want to say that's beautiful.
I do it every single time I start the episode because you guys have the cold open down perfect. It's so good.
Thank you so much. Listeners, if you're sort of joining us halfway through our pods, then we would like to introduce you to our esteemed audio producer, Graham, who has not been on for a while, but we are so thrilled to welcome you back, Graham. Welcome
Thank you.
back to the mic.
It's great to be here, to the mic that I have in a box somewhere because I moved a month ago.
It's okay. We are this is loose fun record. So today what we are offering you listeners is a cute little Q&A with the Pod Squad. And this is our little goodbye to season 4 as we head into season 5 to discuss Mansfield Park. Between seasons 4 and 5, we have one last little persuasion nugget for you that will be coming out next week, as our dear friends Audrey and Emily will be coming on to discuss Anne of Avenue A, their newest adaptation of a Jane Austen novel. We cannot wait to discuss that. But until then, we wanted to give you guys a little wrap-up session. So is everyone ready to wrap up Pod and Prejudice season 4?
We're ready.
Let's wrap it.
It was less long than season 3 of Pod and Prejudice because Emma is quite a long book and Persuasion is quite brief. But here we are a year later, having read Persuasion, having watched several adaptations that are all top tier A+ adaptations of Persuasion that no one has any issues with, and ready to,
We're ready to put it to rest.
we're ready to put Anne and Wentworth out to sea.
Yeah, send them off on their way. So we wrote on Instagram we put a little question box on Instagram and asked you all to send us your questions. And now we're going to answer them. So Graham, take us away.
All right. First question. What is your favorite Mary line?
What's my favorite child is really like what you're asking me, because I, as we all know, love me some Mary from Persuasion. And I need to think about this for a second, but I think it is pretty much anytime she talks about her children sends me.
I am going to have to pick a line from the movie. From the 2022 film. I'm so sorry.
Molly, we're going to get killed.
I'm putting myself out there to be murdered.
I will start with one of my faves because
for it.
we love a queen with zero self-awareness. So it's after she sees Captain Wentworth and she just says to Anne outright, "Captain Wentworth is not very gallant by you, Anne, though he was so attentive to me. Henrietta asked him what he thought of you when they went away, and he said you were so altered he should not have known you again."
Love.
Incredible. I'm so sorry, listeners. Take this written apology. I know it's verbal, but I'm gonna give you a quote from the film. Here's a really good moment. Please understand that the thing about me is that I am an empath. I'm actually the least
Boo.
equipped to be with my children when they are suffering because I feel it so deeply.
I cannot agree with Molly on her take there. I basically think that Mary, every single time she's in the book, the level of Delulu and the self-centeredness is so stunning and sublime that I cannot I find it hard to pick a favorite. I picked the Wentworth one because it's the one where it's the least self-awareness of all of the quotations, but I genuinely every time she's in the book, it was like chef's kiss for me. I thought she was the funniest character Jane Austen ever wrote, which is why I think Persuasion needs funnier adaptations.
To
Yeah.
Molly's credit,
Yeah.
I have never met someone who self-describes as an empath that I'm like, wow, they're really self-aware.
No, it's very true. So to be clear, the Mary and the Persuasion 2022 adaptation is quite good. Just the script compared to Jade Austen's words for me, not a thing.
I want to be very clear. I am not saying that the script of Persuasion 2022 is better than the text that Austen wrote. But for the purposes of this, it was easier for me to find a line from Mary from the film. And I knew that she cracked me up in that movie. So that's why I did that.
Good point. But I do think
In my defense.
we're already starting so spicy, so we should take it down a notch.
Yeah, let's take it down a notch. What's next?
Next question is, take us through your dream 2025 TV series Persuasion. The cast, the script, the everything.
Oh my gosh.
This was a combination of a couple different questions where people asked us to do a dream casting, but one person asked us to do a dream TV series. And I know Becca has a lot of feelings about this.
Oh my god. Okay, I have to think about this. So we've talked about this a little bit. One, I'm aging everybody up so that in sort of modern parlance, we understand where Anne and Wentworth are in life because by Regency era standards, they're sort of later in life lovers.
Yeah, one person did say in their question to us, is being 27 in Austen's era kind of like being 37 now? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I would even say it's more like being in your 40s, early 40s.
So like Sarah Snook, for example.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm going to say Sarah Snook because I was robbed personally of that adaptation.
Mhm.
I don't know who of our listener base is a Succession fan, but I think she is one of the most talented actors alive. Graham just went as if yeah,
I don't know actors by their names, but when I see them, I'm like, oh my God, that one. And I had to
yes,
Yeah.
Google her right now, and I was like, oh, yeah.
yeah.
She's also Tony Award winner Sarah Snook because of her one-man show of Dorian Gray, which was phenomenal, in which she played all the characters.
Oh my God.
She's just totally brilliant, and I think Shiv Roy is a character with looser morals than Anne Elliot, so to speak. But where that character thrives, and the reason Sarah Snook's so good in the role is because she brings a certain vulnerability to the character that I think without it, the character would simply fail. And I think that Anne Elliot, the subtext of like deep raw emotion that undergirds an Anne Elliot performance necessarily is sort of like the bread and butter of Persuasion. So I think Sarah Snook would have been perfect in the role. Robbed. Now, Wentworth is a trickier question because I actually think Wentworth is very difficult to nail. I think he has to be kind of stern and kind of enraged in some way, like together, but he's also kind of like a wild card in his own right. He's a bit like looser around the edges than some of our other Austen heroes have been. Like our Misters Knightley and Misters Darcy are very buttoned up fellows, but Wentworth he's a sailor. And that's where he feels at home. So there has to be something a little looser to him. I do still think if I were going to cast Pedro Pascal in a Jane Austen movie, it would be as Wentworth, but I'm not sure he would be like my number one cast for Wentworth, but somebody in the ilk of being a little swashbuckling.
I almost feel like just because Pedro Pascal is so hot and so popular right now, and we're talking about the year 2025, he would be a better Mr. Elliot in this adaptation
Mhm.
if we're aging everyone up. Just because, like, I feel like Wentworth has to have I don't wanna say has lost a little of his shine because honestly, he in the book is described as, like, having aged like fine wine,
Mhm.
so maybe he would be perfect for it, but I feel like if he's the heartthrob, then like,
Yeah.
once again, and we've said this before, we'll say it again, if you're faced with a choice between Pedro Pascal and any other man, you have to choose Pedro Pascal or the audience does not believe it.
So one person who jumps to mind, and I'm looking for sort of a better like equivalent in 2025, but like 10 years ago, I would have said Viggo Mortensen
Mm.
I'll take it.
because like that Aragorn energy of being kind of someone with gravitas and responsibility on his shoulders, but also having that rugged edge is how I see Wentworth as a character.
I could totally see that, but now that you've put Lord of the Rings in my mind, I wanna backtrack and put Pedro Pascal as Wentworth and then put, Orlando Bloom as Mr. Elliot.
He'd be good. He'd be good.
Interesting.
And then obviously if we're doing the TV series, like what I'm picturing is I want like a solid 20 minutes at the beginning to explore Anne and Wentworth in their youth.
Give us a whole episode.
Yeah, I want to give such a shit about their like early relationship. I want that chemistry to pop off the screen so that when they see each other again, I don't need to hear that she was persuaded away from him. I don't need to hear what they meant to each other. I don't need to like have there's always like a download moment at the beginning of every persuasion adaptation with Lady Russell where she's like, "I know you convinced me away from him, but I regret that." And in this adaptation what I would want is the luxury of having Lady Russell not have to say out loud, "I convinced you away from him," and not having to say, "I regret that." I want that to be something that is silently shared between the two of them and the audience
Mhm.
saw it happen so they know. And I want a persuasion adaptation. I'm not a screenwriter, so I'm not a perfect sort of like person to write this out, but if it's say like a 5 or 6 episode arc.
Give us 8 episodes. I say 8
Okay.
episode arc.
Mhm.
So we're doing an 8 episode arc, which is I would keep it to 6. But if we're doing 8,
I think we need to give it 8 because hear me out. First episode is
flashback.
no.
No.
We're doing a second episode flashback.
Ooh, so first episode is just her leaving
Pining.
Kellynch.
Yeah, it's like the first couple chapters introduction to all of our main players
Okay.
besides Wentworth, but we hear like little inklings of the potential for the people moving in whose names I'm blanking on, but his sister.
Admiral and Mrs. Croft.
Croft, yeah. So we hear
Yeah.
inklings of the Crofts and we see Anne being like, oh no. And then episode 2, a week later, episode 2 comes out and everybody's like 8 years younger and it's this sweeping romance and we just have this whole romantic episode that feels very like third episode of The Last of Us season 1.
Bottle
Where
episode. Agree.
yeah.
I think it comes later than episode 2. Episode 1, audience is meeting everybody. We get to
Mhm.
know like who everyone is, what the given circumstances are. Episode 2, we see everyone like existing around each other, getting to know the relationships as they are now. Episode 3 is when at this point we're all wondering like why are they so weird with each other?
Mhm.
Episode 3, then we see, oh, it's
Bottle.
because they're in love.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also think we should do a different casting for the younger two of them.
Mm.
Ooh, yeah.
Here's my pitch for young Wentworth. David Cornsweet.
Oh man. Yeah, you
He's such a
Graham
sweet, handsome little man.
and honestly, yeah, you're hitting on like number 1 top tier S tier like Becca celebrity crush right now. I
Yeah.
love this man. He is everything I'm attracted to in men ever, like in one man.
The human puppy dog.
Have you met my husband?
I have my husband.
And here's the thing. Since we have 8 episodes and since we've aged everyone up, I'm proposing that instead of an 8-year time jump, we have like a 15 to 20-year time jump.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like it.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
So then there's been pining for
Longer.
decades.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, and so this is like if we're like having our druthers, so to speak. And I think there's a lot of ways you could do this, but I think I agree. I think I would want a really drive home. These were young people. They were unsure of themselves, but they were so in love. And here they are at this much later point in their lives, having developed in certain ways. And now now is the time that they should be together.
And what if, okay, maybe I'm going off the rails here, but what if in that time jump in between, one of them, maybe this takes away too much from, maybe it's not, as long as it's not Anne, but one of them had some sort of other relationship. They weren't in love with this person. They didn't want to marry them, but they did it because they knew they were getting to that age and they had to.
Isn't that Louisa for Wentworth?
Yeah, it literally is. I'm just thinking like in between the two of them.
I think like it's a question of whether or not you really watch and reject Musgrove back in the day.
Oh, okay. Part of the flashback or another
Yeah.
flashback.
Yeah.
Maybe we get 2 flashback episodes because that, yeah, you're right. That did happen.
It did. So I do think that there's a lot there to explore, but I think the things I would care most about in a Persuasion adaptation would be intensive chemistry between Wentworth and Anne, some way to establish the stakes and leave what happened in silence in the modern day, which no adaptation has been able to do. And it's difficult to do because like it's a very internal book and Jane Austen writes it so beautifully that you just immediately care. But I would I would do a flashback and then I would want the interactions between Anne and Wentworth to live exclusively like in the silences between them.
Yes.
In the rooms filled with like deeply, and this is another thing, deeply hilarious Musgroves, like doing their nonsense around these two people, but you feel there's like a magnetic connection between the two of them that's sort of like hard to ignore, even though everybody in the room is ignoring it. That's what I want out of a Persuasion adaptation, because that to me is the book, is the two people who are constantly put in the same room together, who are struggling with how to grapple with the intensity of what it is between the two of them when nobody else knows.
Mm-hmm. And then in terms of script, we're keeping it in the 1800s, and I'm okay with modern-ish language. Like, I'm okay with them talking like they're not.
Well, now you've lost me.
No. Listen. Hear me out. I'm not saying we're modernizing the language. What I'm trying to say is people in Shakespeare's era did not speak in iambic pentameter, similar to people in Austen's time, potentially not always speaking in the most beautiful poetic language. But I'm not saying we're modernizing the language. I'm saying we're
Yeah.
colloquializing it in a way that like that we're keeping all of the major quotes. We're keeping those.
If you compare the way that Emma's written to the way that Persuasion's written, Persuasion are these angsty, long narratives inside Anne's head about how sad she is about Wentworth, whereas Emma is also a deeply internal book. But Emma's just like making herself laugh all day, essentially, and being sassy and delulu in her own world. And so the language kind of translates better to her being like externally sassy or having it in a journal, because it's just like for little quips going like constantly. And it's still difficult to do, but I actually think it's very difficult to translate Anne's like inner poetry about Wentworth to the screen and
Yeah.
in a way
Well,
that
I think
makes
the
sense.
flashbacks will do that.
Exactly.
I guess I'm just saying I want to find a way, and I believe in us when we write this screenplay. I want to find a way to have it appeal to people who are like, oh, I can't follow that old-timey language.
Well, I think everyone understands the language of sexual tension. So
That they do.
yes. All right. So this is our
So moving on.
yeah, these are our dream adaptation pieces. I think you can tell we have very strong feelings. I think the strongest feelings we have are that Sarah Snook, we were robbed. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I feel like I'm Anne Elliot looking back 8 years later and just like sad that I didn't get my Sarah Snook as Anne Elliot adaptation of Persuasion. All right, what's next, Graham?
The next question, in a different hypothetical future Persuasion adaptation, which character would you want to play?
Okay, I gave this some thought. I actually, and Molly, you can tell me if I'm wrong here. I think we would be absolutely great as Anne's two sisters.
And you're saying that
I would be
Mary.
Elizabeth and you'd be Mary.
Well, I'm glad that we both knew what we were and who we are, and I think you're so right. And I think that I was gonna say Mary for myself, and I absolutely can see you as Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible.
Yeah. I for those who would not have known this, in our prior theater careers, my typecast was like heinous, mean lady, in most things I was in.
And my typecast is always gonna be short and loud. Mary's so little, but only in it listen, I'm sorry. I watched the 2022 Persuasion so many times. I'll shut up about it now. We're putting it to rest.
We are. I can't go through this again, Molly.
What's next?
Do you think there's anything Austen would have changed about Persuasion if she'd lived longer?
I think not, because we have the edit.
So I think Molly's correct that the ending of Persuasion is perfect, and I think Jane Austen would have been like really pleased with how the letter wraps up the story. I think one thing people speculate about, and this might be what the question is getting at, is whether there was a cleaner way to wrap up Elliot as a story. And I think you see this in a lot of the adaptations. They struggle with how to make the Mrs. Smith plotline work on screen because it is a little weird that she doesn't tell her friend that her suitor is a villain. And I think that Austen would have found a way to finesse Mrs. Smith's, not telling Anne about Mr. Elliot right away. That being said, I actually don't mind that sort of like spike in the book because I think it makes it more interesting.
That's a really good point. I do think that that plot line in general is really hard for our generation to wrap its head around. I don't know if it would have been as hard to wrap their heads around in Jane Austen's time, so I don't know if it's something that she would have necessarily reworked, but I do think you're right in terms of wrapping it up. I agree.
Okay.
Moving on.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think about the parallels between Persuasion and Harriet's plot in Emma?
I like that question. I think it is similar to the plot of Persuasion, except for the fact that I think Harriet was never as eligible as Anne was in her youth. I love her. Harriet Smith's great. Anne is the daughter of a baronet. Harriet Smith is the daughter of
Of who knows?
question mark. And I think our boy Robert Martin seems to have less pride than Wentworth because he's pretty willing to just hop right back in the minute that he gets an opportunity, whereas Wentworth needs a little bit of time to process his anger, which is fair.
Yeah. But it's nice that, like, so Harriet, the yearning is there in the same way. Harriet was in love with Robert Martin. He proposes. She ends up saying no because she was influenced by someone else, persuaded, one could say. And then for the rest of the book, she's trying to move on in a way that Anne never does. Like, Harriet tries to get with Elton. She tries to get with Knightley at one point. She's trying to move on in a way that Anne never does because Anne is very steadfast in her ways. She's like, this is the only love that I'll ever have, and this is the love that I'll die with. But I think it's nice that Jane Austen, after having written this potential someone who could be perceived as fickle character, was like, what if I take a similar storyline, but instead of making the girl wishy-washy and like persuadable, I have her regret being persuaded and live with that for the rest of her life and make her the main character instead of, the side quest. And then she gets this like beautiful treatment. No shade to Harriet. I love Harriet. But I
Love
think
Harriet.
that I think it's fun to see the two sides of that coin. Like, what happens if you're persuaded and continue to be persuaded until the very end? And what happens if you're persuaded and then you're like, fuck that. And then you're sad for the rest of your life.
We have our next question from our Patreon from Caitlin. She says, I'd love to finalize the Persuasion playlist. Top 5 songs for Freddie and top 5 for Anne. The playlists we have are full of greats, but now that you finished the book, would love to know top picks.
So our patrons lovingly made us an Anne Elliot Sad Girl playlist and a Freddie Wentworth Sad Boy playlist. And we're going to pick the top 5 non-negotiable songs from each one, starting with Anne.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Gracie Abrams' I Love You, I'm Sorry is like probably the Anne Elliot song of all Anne Elliot songs.
Mhm.
Turning Tables for me is high up there.
I like that. She Used to Be Mine from Waitress.
I Gotta Give It to Wedding Song by Renee Rapp.
Of course we do.
Ugh.
And last but not least, we need a Taylor Swift on there.
I think it's probably Back to December.
I think so.
Graham looks like he might disagree, but
No, I have no disagreement. I was personally shocked at the volume of Taylor Swift on the playlist.
And you know what? Taylor Swift has something for everyone.
and I gotta tell you, like, given our listener base, I'm not surprised, because I would say a lot of women in our age bracket, a lot of their actual breakups have been defined by Taylor Swift songs, because she tracks a lot of the same like life milestones as us.
Mhm.
So like I experienced high school love around the same time Taylor did. I experienced my first breakup around the same time she did. So like it tracks with a lot of that. So it's part of the reason, like, when we think of breakup songs, she's always in the mix.
Yeah.
Very true.
But Wentworth has the spicier of the two.
I've got some feelings on Wentworth's.
Our patrons have some fire picks on here.
This is
Without
really
even
good.
scrolling down, we've got Good Luck Babe by Chappell Roan and Rich Girl by Hall & Oates, two of which
Mhm.
I think are non-negotiables for me.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to go a different direction on the Fleetwood Mac here, because it has Go Your Own Way. But okay, maybe this is just gonna show my like I've been reluctant to show how much of a Fleetwood Mac freak I am on this podcast, but
Why have you been reluctant to show that? I love Fleetwood Mac.
well, because I don't think it's necessary for people to know the amount of times that the same joke about Silver Spring by Fleetwood Mac shows up on my Instagram reels. Like, because there's the specific joke is like everyone knows the clip of Stevie Nicks like cursing Lindsey Buckingham live on stage in the 90s
Mhm.
with the song Silver Spring. And the consistent joke that's like, I get this maybe 6 times a day on Instagram, is just like me in my happy relationship scream belting Silver Spring at my husband because the algorithm knows me. But I would say Silver Spring, even though it's a woman's ballad, I think Wentworth is literally the voice that haunts Anne.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw in, this was a deep cut and I love it. How Can You Mend a Broken Heart by the Bee Gees?
That's a great pick.
It's a really good pick, right?
Ugh.
And it's a Bee Gees deep cut too.
Excellent.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I have to pick the last one here. And it's so stupid. No, you know what? I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to apologize for this. Skater Boy by Avril Lavigne.
That was what I was going to say next.
Like, yes.
Yes.
He is Skater Boy. She did say, see you later,
We
boy.
did say see you later.
Yeah.
boy.
Absolutely.
So I guess we locked that in, guys.
It's locked in. And you all, I want to commend our patrons because we didn't contribute anything to that Freddie Wentworth playlist. You guys nailed it.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good.
And I'm going to be blasting it for the rest of the day.
Yes. All right. Next question, Graham.
Next question. If you could place Austen Easter eggs in Persuasion a la Pixar films, what would they be?
Does this mean like people from other like the Austen Cinematic Universe?
Yeah, it's like how there's the pizza van in all the Pixar movies, or like Lotso the bear is in a movie where he's not supposed to be, and then you're like, oh my god, it's from that movie.
Gotcha. I think it would be fun if the like dessert shop that they go to in Bath is in all of the Austen films.
I love that.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, if it's like there's a location that everyone returns to.
And I am going to say I would connect them all through their rectors.
Oh, sure.
I would have Mr. Collins, Mr. Elton, Edward Ferrars sort of like visit each other's parishes somehow, or like get together for some sort of like church convention in London at some point.
Where they eat potatoes.
Yeah, and they talk about how boring they are together. No shade to Edward. He's better than a lot of these other guys, but you know, there's some dicey vicars, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Next question. Given its story is maybe most of the era, what are Persuasion's lessons for modern audiences?
I love this question.
I have feelings on this one.
Tell us, Graham.
Yes, give us your feelings.
This podcast is really magical to me in that it somehow just lines up with a lot of things that are going on in my life. And went through a really devastating breakup when we were working on Persuasion. And what's the very famous line from?
We were worse than strangers, for we would never be acquainted.
Yeah, yes. That was a piece of text that like carried me and my heart through trying to navigate having gone through a breakup with someone and also wanting to maintain a friendship with them, and like how to take care of myself and nurture this relationship as it changes and grows. I think a story that's based so much around yearning and longing and love at the wrong time is always going to be a timeless story. And what I would say for modern audiences is sometimes things don't work out and it feels like the end of the world, but there is always something beyond the edge of what feels like the end of the world.
I don't think we're gonna top that. Thank you for sharing that, Graham.
Yeah, of course.
Your two pod moms are sitting here adoringly staring at you. So thank you for giving us that beautiful pearl of
Oh
wisdom.
my God, thank the both of you.
I just did the Gen Z heart with my
I'm doing
fingers.
the
I want
millennial
everyone
one.
to know.
I can't do the Gen Z one.
I'll do the K-pop one.
Yeah. Becca.
I'm so old, y'all.
Becca's just Italian.
Everyone do a different one on 3. All right, I'll screenshot that.
Perfect.
From the Patreon, from Relug, we have chronic illness appears in Persuasion. We have Mary Musgrove, who can be read as chronically ill, and Mrs. Smith, who definitely is. Jane Austen was also writing this as she herself was declining in health. What do you think she was trying to say with this? What do you think her opinions on chronic illness are?
I think chronic illness to this day remains a massive issue, especially for women. And I think that in the Regency era, it was pretty common as far as I understand it. And again, sometimes I get into my Regency era history and everyone's like, that is incorrect, Becca. But I'm pretty sure it was quite common, especially like rheumatic fevers.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have the same kind of medication
Yeah.
as we have today. So a lot of people were most definitely dealing with chronic illness.
Yeah. It's interesting because I mean, with Mrs. Smith, you read some of the way in which she operates in her life, which is quite sad and quite bedridden.
Yeah.
And I do think that it reminded me of when we watched Miss Austen, seeing Anne be in good spirits when she was dying. I mean, Jane be in good spirits when she was dying. That did sort of line up with when she would have been writing Persuasion. So that kind of speaks to me. Mary's an interesting case because I think there's a lot of objective readings of Persuasion where you can read Mary as being an ill character. And there are a lot of ill characters or sort of like characters with delicate constitutions in Jane Austen novels. But I think Jane Austen has a lot of disdain for Mary Musgrove.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to think about. It's similar, not necessarily Mary Musgrove, but maybe Mary Musgrove. But I'm thinking of like all of our hypochondriac characters in Jane Austen and whether or not Jane Austen believes them or wants us to believe them about their illnesses. And I think she implies that they are not actually ill because they're kind of the butt of the joke a lot of the
Mhm.
time, or like the comedic relief of the story. And it makes me wonder, how seriously people might have been taken back in the day if they did have an illness that nobody knew, like understood. Like, for example, Mrs. Bennet with her nerves. Like, girl has anxiety and has worked herself up into a tizzy that does affect her health, but everyone's just like, okay, sniff your salts, go lie down, like, we'll deal with it. And it's like, maybe we should listen to women specifically when they say that they don't feel well. But I don't know if Jane Austen believes that because Jane Austen jokes about them a lot. But they do show up in pretty much every book.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's your Jane's Fairfax. Jane Fairfax is a character I think that is chronically quite ill, but that doesn't feature heavily in the plot of the story, mostly because Emma's in her own bubble. Like, oh God, Jane's taking up so much attention because she's sick. I think that Mary Musgrove's kind of the inverse of that, where she talks a lot about being sick, but there are like these moments in the story where she's like, I'm so ill. And then she gets up and does things and like eats a whole meal and everything.
Exactly.
So I think Jane is making fun of Mary, but that's
She
that's
is.
how I read it.
Well, then we see with Mrs. Smith is kind of saintly until she's not, which is one of the things that we're wondering if maybe Jane Austen would rewrite if she had lived a little longer.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, Jane Fairfax is a little saintly, Mrs. Smith is a little saintly, and those are the two characters that we can actually, like, point to as being genuinely ill and not just hypochondriacs. So I
Yep.
wonder what is she saying there?
I think she might have a nuanced view
Yeah.
of women with chronic illness. There are women who, get ill quite often, and there are women who, get ill for attention in Jane Austen's mind. And I think she makes a distinction between a Mary Musgrove and a Jane Fairfax. And Jane Fairfax kind of gets it's a little unfair because you get Jane as like the long suffering, never complaining girl. Whereas I think, Mary Musgrove, because she complains about it, it has to be fake, which I don't think is totally, fair. I think you're allowed to complain about actual illness you have. You don't have to be Jane Fairfax about it all. But that being said, I think it's like I'm more interested in how Anne is formed by Jane's illness in a lot of ways. Mrs. Smith is a very interesting one for me, but I think Anne's regrets in life are really interesting from the perspective of Jane Austen writing it at the end of her life.
Yeah.
So that's why I gravitate more towards thinking about Anne's inner monologue than I do about, Mary's illness. But there's a lot there to explore. And that's kind of the magic of Jane Austen, is that people take from the stories what jumps off the page to them.
Yeah.
Next up, we have, are you an Anne, a Mary, a Henrietta, or Louisa? Be honest, no Elizabeth's here.
I'm a Mary. However, I have been known to suffer in my life. I've been known to suffer health-wise, which is why I'm a Mary, and I've been known to suffer emotionally, which is why I'm an Anne, but I think at this current juncture I'm a Mary.
I think I'm probably a Louisa in my younger years, pep in my step, and then, events occur and I become a little bit more stern in my later years,
Oh, sure.
but maybe not as extreme on either end. And, I do aspire to be Anne Elliot in a crisis. When Graham, do you watch Mad Men? Because this is a reference that constantly jumps to my brain and Molly never gets it.
Mad Men has been something that's been on my list forever.
Ugh.
I watched the first 6 episodes in high school and I went, I don't get it, because my brain was a child brain.
It's an adult show, but there's an episode that reminds me so much of The Cobb, and I bring it up every time we think about The Cobb, but I can't disclose because if you guys ever watch Mad Men, then I don't want to
I'll
step
watch
on your
6 seasons
toes.
of it and I'll get back to you.
Without spoiling anything, this episode in particular is in season 3, so you don't have to go that far.
Okay.
I will say that as a company manager, I have to be like Anne in a crisis.
Yeah.
So I have elements of Anne.
Yep.
I'm less Mary in a crisis. I'm more Mary internally in a crisis, but externally I'm more Anne in a crisis.
Yep.
Mary Sun and Moon.
Yeah, exactly.
Henrietta Rising. Yeah.
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 All right. Why is Anne Elliot the best Austen heroine?
I don't know that I agree with that premise. I do love Anne, but I love all of our Austen heroines. And I think it's funny because Jane Austen was quoted saying Anne was almost too perfect for her to write. She likes writing characters with flaws. But I think what makes Anne so likable is the simultaneous goodness of her character, but also the relatability of her character, which is not an easy balance to strike because a lot of Jane Austen's quote too perfect characters are not our perspective holders. Like our Jane Bennetts, our Jane Fairfaxes, they're all named Jane. But Anne is she's an avatar for what it means to persist in love and live in your feelings, I guess. And so she's a character you want to protect, you want to root for, but also one that you feel like she's doing the right thing almost all the time. Except that one time, like 8 years ago, where she screwed something up, but she regretted it for the rest of her life. But I also like, Lizzie is, I think, her sharpest heroine. Emma is a flawed ass queen, but I love her. And then you have your Eleanor and Marianne, who I think together kind of are the yin and yang that balances a book perfectly. So like I don't know. I feel like I don't want to rank my heroines. I love them all. They're great. I love Jane Austen heroines.
I agree.
Next up, we have Snog, Marry, Avoid. Elizabeth Elliot, Sir Walter, Mrs. Clay.
I'm snogging Mrs. Clay.
Hard same.
Yeah. I think I'll marry Sir Walter and avoid Elizabeth.
Agreed. Sir Walter is older and has money, maybe some. I mean, it's mostly gone, but like I can, live comfortably and just avoid him.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big house.
It's a
It's a big
house.
house. Why all the running in the movies?
If only we knew.
I don't have answers for this. I wish I did.
From our Patreon, Rachel asks, Jane Austen murder mystery adaptations are a growing genre. If you were to adapt Persuasion into a murder mystery, who would you kill and who done it?
Okay, I think Wentworth done it.
Lady Russell,
You think that she done it, or you think she's the one who got murdered?
victim.
Oh, interesting. I was gonna make it a less main character, but I like where your head's at. When does she die?
Beginning of the novel.
Who's the woman in Poirot novels that's like an Agatha Christie self-insert that like the two of them have a lot of tension with?
I can't pretend I'm a huge Agatha Christie head. My sister's read every single one of her books.
I've only read a couple, but there's a woman in there who like shows up to crime scenes who's also a mystery novelist. And it's like, I'm certainly not Agatha Christie, and she and Poirot are always like butting heads.
Oh
And
my
I
god.
want that to be Anne and Freddie.
I love it.
I want them to be solving the mystery together and go from like an enemies to lovers throughout the book.
Oh, that's good.
See, here's what I got. Lady Russell dies at the beginning of the novel and almost immediately suspects Wentworth because they're beef.
Right.
But turns out he wants to find out why she died too. So they go on a scamp to find out who killed her, and it's Mr. Elliot in the end, and Anne and Wentworth fall in love.
Oh, I like that.
And it's so good because she's like, Wentworth is sneaking around a lot. He's being suspicious. And then they catch each other at the end of like the first act. And
Yeah.
it's like, but I thought you. That's really good.
Yeah.
And they were both sneaking around trying to catch the other person.
Yep.
And then they make out.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
Great.
And then the circus goes by.
Yep.
Exactly.
Netflix, get in contact. That's it for our persuasion questions.
That takes us to a different book.
Yes, it does.
Mansfield Park.
And the first question, when will Mansfield Park coverage start?
Next month. And listeners, I just did a full reread. I'm very excited.
Our first question from our patron, Adriana. What went into the decision to do Mansfield Park next instead of Northanger Abbey? And a part 2 to this is, Becca, how are you feeling about guiding Molly through this novel?
I'll start with 2. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be really fun. I think it's a bit of a different energy than the rest of her novels. And that actually is the answer to question 1, which is, well, there's 2 reasons. 1, I haven't read Northanger yet. So much like Persuasion, it's going to be a specific task for me to like get up to speed on Northanger beforehand. So it just made sense to start with Mansfield. But I think more importantly on the substance, Mansfield is sort of a unique Austen novel in its own right. And I didn't want to end on it. I thought it would be better in the mix of the other ones. And I want to return to her more usual fare at the very end.
And I will say that at least one person responded to this, and I didn't include it here because it wasn't a question, but someone responded and said, good call for ending on Northanger Abbey.
I think it's the right call. And I'm really excited. I do think that Mansfield is going to take us a long time to read because it's quite a long book. And I think we're going to have a lot of really interesting conversations about it. But I think it's going to be, I wouldn't have wanted to end on it. It's just a little different in ways I don't want to explain to you than her other novels.
From patron Rachel, Molly, what do you already know about Mansfield Park, and what predictions do you have based on that knowledge?
Okay. I think that this is the one that I know the least about. Because right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out a couple names without looking at anyone's faces and hope that one of them is from Mansfield Park. Fanny Price, Catherine Morland, I think it's one of those two.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah, and I don't actually anything with the story. I know that we've talked briefly about race playing in to the story in this one a little bit more, instead of class or, like, on top of class. So I know that or I think that that is a part of it. Perhaps we follow servants more than we do in other books, and that's literally all I know. I don't know anything else about the story.
I will neither confirm nor deny anything you just said.
Great.
Molly, stop listening.
Oh, I'm taking my headphones off.
Headphones off.
I'm gonna go get more coffee.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Great.
Love it. Okay, Becca, now that it's just you and me,
Yes.
can you summarize briefly your reactions on Mansfield Park from your first read and might based on that, what might you be on the lookout for in the reread?
Okay, so I've read this book 3 times in my life. So the first time I read this book, I was in high school and I did not like it. I read it thinking I was going to walk into another romance. And I was also, one of my dearest friends, who's also a major Jane Austen fan, is of the belief that Henry Crawford should have been the main love interest in Mansfield Park, which I have mixed feelings on, but I understand why she feels that way compared to, Edmund Bertram. Ugh. But then I read it a second time, and the second time I read it was in college. And that was in the context of studying British imperialism. And I think Jane Austen has. Molly just said that there's more, study of race in this one. I think it's kind of a stretch to say it's a study of race, but it's certainly more present in the book than it is in the other books. And I think it has Jane Austen doing sort of a subtle parable on the high class in the UK at this point in time, where I think basically intentionally these characters are all abhorrent, but they're kind of like, and we'll get into it, they're kind of like mirrors of the Jane Austen characters in other novels, twisted a little to be sort of Faustian versions. Like, I think that she is commenting and judging these characters in a way that she is not doing in some of her other novels. And I have really strong opinions. I think that my third read through, which was very recent, I was most interested in the Crawfords, particularly actually Mary Crawford, as she compares to Jane Austen's other heroines, because Fanny is Molly, I don't think she's still listening. So
She's in the room, but she doesn't have
Yeah.
her headphones on.
Fanny is a little bit more judgmental and sort of uptight than other other Jane Austen heroines in a lot of ways. I have a lot of affection for Fanny for reasons we'll dive into in the book when we get there, but I also think she is someone I would critique for some of her perspectives. And Mary, while she is a flawed character, Mary Crawford, I actually think she has a lot in common with like an Emma or a Lizzie or a Marianne in ways that I think are interesting because she's so punished through the book and she's seen as so terrible through the book for those ways of operating in the world. So I don't know. I have a lot of like pent up feelings that I want to like articulate more clearly chapter to chapter, but essentially I think the book is much more interesting if you pull the expectations of it being a Jane Austen romance out and instead look at it as like Jane Austen is indicting her class like of British as basically not nobility but gentry, and making it basically making a commentary on how morally bankrupt they all are. I have a lot to say about that. I think it's going to be really fun to get into. It's not a perfect book, but a really interesting one.
I can't wait to listen to you two go
Yeah.
through that. It sounds like such a blast.
Molly, we're done. Molly, we're done. I'm putting a lot of sound on it. Molly, we're done. Molly, we're done. Molly, you have to look for this.
Thank you for that beautiful song.
You're welcome.
From patron Abrasha. People have strong opinions about Mansfield Park, and it is unquestionably Austen's most polarizing book. With this in mind, what are your predictions and expectations of Mansfield Park?
So for me, I have not seen a lot of conversing online about Mansfield Park, which is why it's the one I know the least about, and why it's been the easiest to avoid spoilers for because, like, it's so few and far between that people are talking about it in, like, the meme space, at least. So, I wouldn't say I have any predictions, or I guess I have an expectation/prediction, which is that we will have some controversial opinions, that maybe I'll have some controversial opinions, because I think the one thing that's fun about the podcast is that I'm not like, I don't have any previous notions about a lot of these books, which is why it was so easy for me to be like hating Mr. Darcy, for example, in the first season of this podcast. And so I think that maybe I'll have some wrong opinions and maybe I'll have some strong opinions
Hell yeah.
that might like cause a stir amongst our
Yeah.
listeners. So that'll be interesting. I think, yeah, I don't have any predictions plot wise yet, but I have expectations that the conversations will be opinionated.
I'll say two things on Mansfield Park. One, I think it's definitely polarizing in the sense that not everyone likes it, but I don't know how much the fandom disagrees about it, like on the actual like perceptions of certain characters and the plots and the points. The question is how much it works for you or it doesn't work for you. I guess my only big advice to Molly, and I don't think it's advice she really needs because she's gone in sort of this way with every book, is just to keep an open mind and not have any like set assumptions for what the book will be. And I think we'll have a good time with it.
Yeah.
And that is it for our season 5 questions. We're going to move on to some general questions just to round out the Q&A. The first one, will you two ever reverse roles, as in Molly reads a book first beforehand, and then Becca doesn't know anything about it?
I think we've gotten this question pretty much every season, and I think at this point the answer is not on a Jane Austen novel. That the way I said that sounded like not from a Jedi.
Not from a Jedi.
Yeah, I think it could be fun once we're done with all of the Jane Austen novels to switch roles, but I really like our dynamic of Becca as the Austen expert and me as the Austen newbie, and I think that I want that to continue through the rest of her books. If we get to a point where we are out of Jane Austen books, maybe we read a book that I love that Becca hasn't read before. Or maybe we read a book that neither of us have read before and I can read it first and be the guide. But I really enjoy being guided by Becca.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, I agree with that entirely. I think that for this particular podcast, I think our dynamic is, what works for us. And it's been easy for us to find our way through it, but it would be fun to challenge ourselves on another book sometime and, see what wrong opinions and assumptions I can bring to a novel and where I get good at predicting stuff.
Yeah.
Next up for Becca, the people need to hear your take on the Wuthering Heights trailer that just dropped.
Oh no, Becca just covered her face with her hand.
Did you know there's going to be a Charlie XCX song in it?
Yeah, we've heard.
I'm excited about that.
I have not watched the trailer.
Okay. Oh, I can tell this our listeners are just gonna be there with me in this to the extent they care about Wuthering Heights, which is not all of our listeners by any stretch. Okay. So first of all, when this movie was first announced, I was genuinely quite excited because Emerald Fennell, I thought I like her other movies and I think they deal with the simmering rage behind what it means, like behind dealing with abuse, and the class rage that is present in our society. And those are two themes of Wuthering Heights that are extremely prevalent. So I thought, ooh, that's actually a really good match. And then the casting dropped, and I thought that's a really bad cast because Margot Robbie is playing a woman 20 years her younger. Kathy is a teenager and is being played by Margot Robbie. Heathcliff, by many scholarly interpretations, is supposed to be a man of color. It's a bit up for debate, but unquestionably in the book, Heathcliff is referred to as a character of darker skin, and many, many scholars read Heathcliff as a race commentary. If you want a good breakdown of Heathcliff as a character, Bonnets at Dawn did a Mr. Darcy versus Heathcliff episode, and I thought it was really excellent to sort of capture the points we're talking about here. But unquestionably, it's present in the story in a way that is almost never captured on screen. And I thought in 2025 we were at a place where we could have conversations about how race imbues story with different meaning. And to have Jacob Elordi playing Heathcliff is such bad casting that I cannot, like, I knew I wasn't going to like the movie. Maybe it's going to be good. It's possible. But I don't hate how overly sexualized the trailer is, because Wuthering Heights is a sexual book, but it is not the number one thing about that story that's interesting. It's not even the top 5 things that are most interesting about the story. So I think that it's not going to be for me, probably, but I'm also someone who is not so stubborn and set in my ways that I cannot enjoy something and say I was wrong about it. So it's possible I'll still enjoy myself if I go to see it. I am highly skeptical based on everything I've heard about the movie that it's going to capture the things about the story that I think are the most engaging.
Have you seen the 2011 Wuthering Heights?
I have. It is somewhat a flawed adaptation for other reasons, but Kaya Scolodario is perfect casting for Kathy. And it is the only adaptation of Wuthering Heights where Heathcliff is cast as a Black man, which is, I'm sure, why you are referencing.
I looked up the cast, or I looked up Wuthering Heights movie because I was like, oh, I didn't know if there was a Wuthering Heights movie already.
The closest to anybody capturing the energy of Heathcliff was Tom Hardy, in my opinion.
Oh.
But I don't think that there has been a great Wuthering Heights adaptation on screen. Some people like the Juliette Binoche, Ray Fiennes one. I don't really like that one.
Oh, I love him.
He's decent as Heathcliff, but again, like, there is an element of the story that I read when I was reading the book that is missing when you cast a white guy to play Heathcliff.
Yeah. Also, I find Tom Hardy deeply unattractive.
Heathcliff's kind of supposed to be a little unattractive.
Oh, okay, because this guy in the 2011 is hot.
Yeah, and so is Jacob Elordi. Like, it's kind of, so Heathcliff is, I mean, I don't want to go too far into it in case we ever cover it on the podcast.
Yeah.
But Heathcliff is a character formed by early life abuse and mistreatment. And a lot of what he deals with has to do with his position in society. And that informs essentially a descent into evil that is part the no-win situation of the class and race-based society he was born into, and in part a personal pathology of a man so tortured by his past that he can't let go. Like, it's a really interesting story, but if you watched the trailer for this Emerald Fennel adaptation, it would not necessarily be, captured. But that's my take on it, guys. I'm upset, but I'm not that upset because I also I can just like the book, and
Yeah,
there
you
can
have
be
the
a
book.
bad adaptation out there. It's not going to hurt me.
Yeah, nice.
I had no idea her name was Emerald Fennel. I've seen a couple of her movies and I've really liked them, and I had no idea there was a woman whose name is Emerald Fennel.
Excellent name.
That's a Dungeons and Dragons gnome shopkeeper. Like, that is
She's great. She's done some good stuff. There have been some valid criticisms of her work that I don't want to discount, but I enjoy her movies. I like her aesthetic, and I thought she was a good pick for this movie because she writes with so much rage. But I've not been vibing with what she's been doing with the adaptation, and that's okay. She doesn't have to. It's her movie. She can do what she wants with it. It's not what I would want.
Yeah.
Moving on. Would you rather have as a coworker Lucy Steele, Augusta Elton, Elizabeth Elliot?
This is so easy for me.
What's your answer?
Lucy Steele.
It's
Lucy
not
Steele.
close.
Yeah,
That's what I
easy.
was gonna say too.
She's at least she's gonna pull her own weight. Jeez.
Oh, sure. Also, she's just the most fun drama.
You know those Instagram reels where it's like the girl you think is mean, but she's really just a girl's girl?
Mm.
Lucy Steele is not a girl's girl.
Lucy Steele's the opposite of a girl's girl, but maybe when she's put into, like, a modern workplace, she would be a girl's girl. Like, she would ride hard for her friends.
I feel like she'd be mean to me, and then she would invite me to go, like, get happy hour drinks, and we would go and bitch and kvetch about all of our coworkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like she would try to step on me on her way up the corporate ladder, and that is fine.
You're like, "Step on me, bitch."
Harder.
Exactly. I can respect a hustle. It's a little immature, but Elizabeth Elliot would do no work and abuse me, and Augusta Elton would be so enragingly annoying that I would not be able to be around her.
Absolutely.
Ranking of books and/or adaptations at this point, knowing that it might change.
I think let's do books. Let's just
Yeah.
do out of the books we've read.
I'm going to do superlatives instead of ranking because they're each the best at something.
That's really nice. Let's do that.
I think that Pride and Prejudice is her best written that we've read, like in terms of pacing, character, and like plot beats. And I also think Lizzie is her most well-developed heroine.
Sure. I think I disagree, but I want to hear the rest of your
And
superlatives.
I will let you do your own superlatives, so
Yeah,
we don't have to. You don't have to agree with mine. I think Emma's her funniest by a lot. I think it's a really funny novel. I think Persuasion is her most romantic, probably. The hashtag yearn is strong in that one. And I would say that the dynamic between the characters in Sense and Sensibility, the two mains, is special, unique, and, superlative in Sense and Sensibility.
The best sister's tale.
Yes, the best family.
Yeah. I guess I'll also do superlatives, but my favorite that we've read is Emma. I'll tell everyone that up until this point it has remained that each one I've read I like more than the last. I did really love Persuasion, and I think it was the most, like, for the most part, most succinct love story. But I think Emma stays my favorite, and also, like, I'm sorry, the letter is great, but nothing will top If I Loved You Less, I Might Be Able to Talk About It More for me. That was the most swoon-worthy proposal. So
Ugh.
Molly's favorite and most swoon-worthy proposal goes to Emma. Best vibes is going to Persuasion because of the yearning and the wind and the rain.
The drama.
We're giving it to Persuasion. Yeah. I agree that the best written will go to Pride and Prejudice because it has a little bit of everything. It is the quintessential rom-com, and it is her most prolific work in terms of, like, it is the one that she is remembered for, and I think that there's a good reason for that.
Yeah.
And most beautiful backstory for a love interest goes to Sense and Sensibility and our
Colonel.
boy, our Colonel.
I love him.
That's my president.
Next up, we have. I'm going to break this one into two because there are four things here. And it seems like two pairs: pineapple or strawberries, and then sorbet or marzipan.
Pineapple and sorbet.
Yep, same.
Am I crazy for liking marzipan?
I hate the taste of almond paste
I was gonna
and
say.
almond flavored things.
So does Mel.
A dear friend of mine baked me these lovely almond muffins one year for my birthday, and she had no idea that I just can't stomach an almond baked good, and so I ate half of them just because what an awful thing to be like, no, I don't like it, but I can't. I hate it. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I was going to say marzipan is not for people who don't like almonds, and I'm fine on almonds, but I don't love them. If you really like almonds, then marzipan is definitely your candy.
Well, here's the thing. Almonds taste different from almond sweets. And I love both. And Mel hates false almond flavor. And I love it. And I'm sorry to sorbet, but I don't think ice cream has any business being flavored like fruit. Give me ice cream.
Well, that's why sorbet isn't ice cream.
But it's a
It's
frozen
sorbet.
treat. I always prefer a chocolate frozen treat. I do like a Dole Whip. I'll take a Dole Whip.
I do enjoy chocolate generally in desserts, but if I'm picking between marzipan and sorbet, like sorbet has a refreshing element to it that I enjoy.
There's a gelato place near my apartment.
Also not sorbet.
No, no, I know, but I can't eat gelato because
Oh,
I'm
yes.
vegan, and
Yeah.
they have sorbet, and then they have this vegan almond gelato it's like an almond sorbet basically, but it's like an almond gelato situation that's almond with chocolate chips, and obviously it tastes like marzipan, but it's my favorite. So, pineapple, marzipan.
Pineapple sorbet.
Pineapple sorbet. Sorry to all the strawberries out there. From patron Rolug, the persuasion characters have fallen into an Austen wormhole. Ah! Which characters from Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, or Emma would they all pair up with?
I'm just gonna give one pairing that immediately jumped to my mind, and I'm gonna leave it at that. Which is Lucy Steele and Sir Walter.
Yeah, how is it that I also was like, Lucy Steele has got to be with either Sir Walter or Mr. Elliot?
Oh, Mr. Elliot and Lucy Steele would be a good match.
Hear me out. She flirts with Mr. Elliot and acts like she's gonna go for him, but in the end, she ditches him and goes with Sir Walter.
So she reverse Mrs. Clay's the situation.
Exactly.
Perfect. I love it. I love it.
Finally, Snog, Marry, Avoid, Wickham, Willoughby, Mr. Elliot.
Oh God. I'll marry Mr. Elliot because he's the least terrible in all right. Oh, Becca just made a face. I take it. I'd like to take that one back.
I'm gonna marry Willoughby. He's not totally soulless, but even if he is a piece of shit, but he has like regrets.
I think we're all
Mm-mm.
thinking it. It is Snog Wickham, right?
Use protection, but yeah.
I guess. Oh, this is this is hard. I guess we can snog Wickham. We can marry Willoughby. We can avoid Mr. Elliot. But
Honestly, it's a toss up between Mr. Elliot and Wickham for me on the snog and the kill. I don't want to do either, but whatever. But I think Willoughby is the one of those that has like a shred of a soul. So I would marry him.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess Mr. Elliot hasn't been portrayed as evil as evil as he is in the book in the filmed adaptations. And so it's hard because I forget how genuinely evil he is.
He's canonically rather cruel to his wife. If it's just the Persuasion 2022 Mr. Elliot, then I'll take Mr. Elliot, no questions.
Well,
but...
sure. But I'm also thinking like Willoughby and Wickham both had relations with 15-year-olds in a creepy way.
Yes, and Mr. Elliot is the one of them who canonically abused his wife. So
yeah. Okay, so I'm not marrying Mr. Elliot.
I agree. I think it's a snog Mr. Elliot and an avoid Wickham. I think he's the most predatory.
Yeah, and so then we're marrying Willoughby. So how do we make that bearable?
Oh, I don't know.
Like, can we buy a big house again and put him in one?
Maybe,
one way
but he
and we
spends
live
all your
together?
money. So I don't know. It's just tough. You just have to hope that he's just hanging around and pining after Marianne and he doesn't bother you.
Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah. All right. Yeah, fine. We can marry him and then we can each agree to have our own relations on the side.
Yeah. All right. Graham, is that it for our questions?
That's it. That'll do it for us on questions.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for taking us through those, Graham. And thanks to our listeners for submitting. It's been a joy to share Persuasion with you guys. I can't wait to share Mansfield Park with you guys. Molly, anything else to say to our lovely listeners, Graham?
Yeah, no, I think that this is a great way to end what has been a wonderful season. I've really loved experiencing this book for the first time and also getting to experience it for the first time alongside Becca, kind of like in parallel or in tandem. I think that was a really fun new thing that we did. And I am so excited for our next chapter.
I want to thank all of our listeners, whether patrons or not. Just thank you to everyone who listens to this podcast. It is such a joy and delight that we have such an active community of people who are so excited and have made just a community of people that are supporting each other and getting into heated debate with each other about Jane Austen.
It's fantastic.
So beautiful.
So until next time, stay proper.
And get a copy of Mansfield Park because we're getting ready.
It's starting.
Pod and Prejudice is edited by Molly Burdick and audio produced by Graham Cook. Our show art is designed by Torrance Brown. Our show is transcribed by SpeechDocs Podcast Transcription. For transcripts and to learn more about our team, check out our website at podandprejudice.com. To keep up with the show, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Pod and Prejudice. If you love what you hear, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/podandprejudice to see how you can support us, or just drop us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening.